Okay, well, I like it when people come in live. First of all, I know it's working.
I'll text Heidi.
Hopefully, if I go on vacation soon,
So like when
I
you
can't quarantine,
watch
I will
something
come in
live,
live.
there's always a possibility that like freezes.
All right. So one more thing about social contract theory. Think about it this way, and this is a quote from Socrates. So this will tell you right away, the idea of social contract is not new, just to Locke, Hobbes, Rousseau, and so forth. Socrates said this. His argument on why he should stay in jail. He said this. The idea why I should stay in jail is based on the idea that my entire way of life is based on laws. And by benefiting from them and agreeing to live there, I'm agreeing to the punishments those laws set out. I've entered into a contract with government, and I will keep my part. Okay? So as we pass laws, who gets to pass the law in this country? Congress. Who elects members of Congress? We do. So we get to pass the laws over ourselves. We're going to give up certain freedoms, right? Like to drive 65 miles an hour to a residential area. For the safety of the neighborhood, we're going to give up that right so that we can live in a safe and secure society. Yes? And if you violate those laws, then there will be punishments for them. And you guess who decides what the punishment is? We do. Right? Through the people that pass the laws, the sentencing guidelines, and so forth. Okay? Now, we do have a huge bureaucratic state of people that are appointed to government positions that make rules for us as well. That's a little bit of a different argument, the administrative state. Okay? So, for instance, on the masks, mandates, or what have you, okay, our system is set up, I think we talked about this, right? Only who is going to mandate that we wear masks in the school? Government official-wise. The county health commissioner. Okay, not the governor, not the city council, but the county health commissioner. Now, at a more micro level, Janet Eaton can say that we're going to wear masks. Who's the superintendent of schools, right? So, guys, that's your federalism. That's your layers of government. Okay, it tends to work pretty well. But while we're talking about layers of government, it's a perfect time to talk about different forms of government, which would be a great header in your notes. Different forms of government. Now, guys, there's going to be different criteria that we use. And the first of those is different forms of government based on geographic distribution of power. Different levels of government, different forms of government based on geographic distribution of power. And I have 3 types of government based on geographic distribution of power. Okay? And we're going to start with the unitary system. Let me define unitary for you. Centralized government. Centralized government. Yes. Hi, Heidi.
Hi.
You're in.
Sweet.
Now I got to figure out how to shrink you. I think I just got to pin myself. There we go. Pin. Okay. All right. Because otherwise people watching the video just have a little thing of me and a big thing that says HW on it. Okay. All right. Centralized, we're looking at different forms of government based on geographic distribution of power. Okay. Centralized government where all power is in one location. All power is held in one location. Usually a capital, like London, like Paris. Most countries in the world today are unitary systems. So let me explain to you. Okay, I'll just do a graphic, okay? This is your central government. Okay, this could be called a national government, a federal government, okay? It controls the state and local governments. Big unit controls state and local government. So, by contrast, if I were to ask you, what's the highest elected official in the city of Wichita? The mayor. Okay? In our system, do we get to elect the mayor? Yeah. In fact, one of us can run for mayor. All right? Now, in a unitary system, generally the centralized government, not always, but generally, the centralized government will send somebody to administer that local government or give that local government directives of how to do their job. So who's really in control? The central government. Okay? And most systems are governed like this. Most countries are governed like this. Okay? We are moving in this direction in the United States. We are not a unitary system yet. Okay? The second form of government based on geographic distribution of power is a confederation. Or a confederal government. Let me define it. An alliance of independent states. Usually these are formed for specific purposes. Okay? There are not near as many confederal governments as there are unitary governments. Let me give you one example. Canada is a confederal system. Now they don't use states, they use what? Provinces. Okay? And these provinces are all independent. Okay, you got Quebec, Winnipeg, right? Or you had to learn these. I remember you learning these.
I forgot all of them.
Saskatchewan?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I remember that from the
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so now they do have a central capital, a national government, okay? But like in Quebec, what language do they speak? They speak French, okay? Now, I think I mentioned to you guys before, Canada has a national healthcare system, right? Like we talked about, a universal system. And so each of the provinces had to agree for them to do that, you understand? Which does give the national government quite a bit of control. When they control your healthcare, they control a lot, okay? So the national government actually does have quite a bit of strength in Canada, but it's only because the states or the provinces give them that power. Because if they want to take that power away from the national government, they can't. Does that make sense? Because the real power lies at the local and state level. Now, we started as a nation. What was the name of our first constitution? The Articles of Confederation. So we started with this. Now think about what the American Revolution in our first constitution. Okay, so the American Revolution starts in 1775, in 1781, they wrote the Articles of Confederation. Okay, the war ends in 1783. So this was a wartime Congress that wrote this Constitution. Okay, and was ratified by 13 countries. Because when we declared our independence, guys, in 1776, the only thing holding us together was Congress, the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. That was the only thing binding the 13 together. They were 13 countries. You understand? Okay, now the Articles of Confederation is written, and it sets up this government, giving this national government very little power. Because what were they breaking away from? A unitary system. They were breaking away from a king and a parliament that was overbearing on them. Yes? So you can understand why we started with this. Now, it didn't work too well. We'll document all the problems of the Articles of Confederation here, okay? So we switch. Okay, another good example of a confederal system is the European Union. Okay, we've all heard of the EU, yes? Okay, now the EU is relatively new. I remember when my wife and I went to Europe in 1999, they had European Union traveler's checks, but not the, what do they call the European currency?
Euro.
The euro. They didn't have the euro yet. They had euro traveler's checks. Okay, so when we went to Italy, we still had to transfer money to lira and the pound in Britain. Pound never went away, by the way. British never took on the euro. Okay, and now they're out. Brexit. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to switch to the third type of government, third form of government based on geographical distribution of power, and that is the federal system. Check this out. Regional. You ready? To define federalism. Powers that are divided or shared between national, state, and local governments. Powers that are divided or shared by national, state, and local governments. Put a star next to it, underline it, highlight it, all caps. Powers that are shared or divided between national, state, and local governments. Here on out, people. At any time, I will call your name and ask you to define federalism for me. Okay? Now, here's a little game you can play. Go home and ask mom or dad. Do you know what federalism is? Because that's our system. Okay? Most people, we don't know we have it. And if you don't know we have it, is it easy to take it away?
Yes.
And become more unitary, where more decisions are made by a small group of people in a faraway place called Washington, D.C. Listen, we have 435 members of the House of Representatives. We have 100 senators. We have 1 president. We have 9 Supreme Court justices. That's 543 people, 44, 45, 6, 45, 545 people. Do you want them to make all the decisions for the whole country? I don't either. I want the Sedgwick County Health Commissioner to make the decision based on Sedgwick County. Not one cookie cutter approach, one size fits all approach for Alabama and Alaska, for California and New York, Kansas and Delaware. We're not the same. It's a big country, okay? I don't want these people making all the decisions. Now, there's certain decisions they are allowed to make, and those are found in the Constitution. Okay? So federalism is our system of government, how our system functions. Okay? We will do a whole section, not a full section on it, but I'll do a couple of days on federalism itself. Okay? But I think you understand the premise. Okay? So let me give you some examples just real quick. Okay? What was for lunch served in the cafeteria today? What?
Tater tots.
Meatball subs, tater tots. Okay? There were apples available, vegetables available, carrots, salad,
Chicken.
all available. Okay? Now, the guidelines for that school lunch today were not set by your parents who fund the school. The guidelines for that lunch today were made by the Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C. Not Michelle Obama. And a lot of people like to blame Michelle. It's not Michelle's fault. Okay, it's the Department of Agriculture. Why? Because they help fund those lunches you guys are eating for free, which are not free. Yes? Okay. If they didn't fund those lunches, they would have no say over those lunches. You understand? Okay. I know this is boring for you, Ruby. But somebody's got to pay attention. Okay. Otherwise, this disappears. Okay. Now, do you like the fact that the Department of Agriculture gets to decide what's in the lunch, or do you think your parents and yourselves could decide what you could eat for lunch? That's the bureaucratic state. That's the administrative state at the Department of Agriculture. Do you know their names?
No.
Were they elected?
No.
No. Okay? But they're making these decisions for you anyways. For you. Okay? Because you don't know how to feed yourselves. You put too much salt in your food, too many calories in your food, and so forth. Okay? Those are just some examples, okay? All right. Now, we're going to look at different forms of government, again, based on the number of people that can participate. Different forms of government based on the number of people that can participate. And I have two major ones there, okay, with some bullet points underneath it. Hey,
Hi.
what's going on? Ooh. Somebody's birthday? Caitlin? Yesterday?
Yeah. Or the day after. I was just looking on this shirt.
Oh, we're starting to wilt.
That's it. What's that though? I think they do it in school though.
You have a secret admirer.
Has to be. I don't know if I want to go. Will you come with me, Stevie Brian?
Stalker.
It might be nice with something. Wow.
It's Mrs. Richmond.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. It's scary.
Yeah.
All right. Based on how many people can participate? You guys know where I'm going with this? Like if only one person can participate?
Dictatorship.
Yeah, we'll start with dictatorship. Okay?
Easy.
What the hell is that? Oh, I subbed for long first hour. It's the only. He didn't have sub plans, so I just thought of random stuff.
You did do that.
When I subbed in another class?
In Bidding's class, I don't know what you taught, but I was like, this is not what we're learning about.
Yeah. You don't give me sub plans, I'm gonna teach you something. I just can't sit there and look at you. Okay. What did I say?
Dictatorship.
Dictatorship. Okay, let me define that for you. Okay. Those who rule, the dictatorship, those who rule do not follow the will of the people. Those who rule do not follow the will of the people. Now, while we're doing this, guys, we're going to look at many different forms of dictatorship. Dictatorship can be a little bit confusing. Okay, so we're going to clarify a lot. Okay, so can you think of a type of dictatorship? Okay, military dictatorship.
Monarchy.
Yeah, let's go with monarchy. Authoritarian is a word to describe dictatorship. Or a theocracy. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, now, what do you think this? Can you think of a country that's a military dictatorship today? North Korea, Cuba. Okay, oftentimes you'll see the leader, the dictator, wearing a military uniform. Okay, Saddam Hussein in Iraq was a military dictator. Okay, okay, monarchy. How do you become a monarchy? Okay, yeah, it's hereditary, right? Okay, and this is obviously religious. Okay. Okay, now, these two seem to be what we would call autocratic or an autocracy, which means rule by what? Auto mean one. Rule by one is an autocracy, not autocracy. Autocracy, one. Okay. Now, we do come along in the 20th century. We get fascist dictatorships. Okay. We get communist dictatorships. And another term that's used is totalitarian. Just make it long. Okay, now, China is not an autocracy. It is ruled by the Communist Party of China, which is a few people, a small group of people, which is called an oligarchy. G. I spelled that. It's a G.
There's an H after the C.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Here?
Yeah.
And I need it here too?
No.
No. Oligarchy. Okay? All right, so This means rule by one. This means rule by you. Okay, now if you're not familiar with Chinese politics today, okay, the leader of China today is President Xi. Okay, he has been named president for life. It's only happened twice. Mao and Xi. He is so popular in China, as is his wife. Is very popular. Okay, and they decided that they would take the pressure off them and name him president for life, which makes him dangerous. When you know you don't have to answer to the Communist Party. Okay, because since Mao, communist leaders in China have come and gone. Okay, same thing in Soviet Russia. Okay, what you had was Lenin died, you get Stalin, right? And then when Stalin basically killed anybody that was a threat to him, he was an autocrat in an oligarchy. Because the Communist Party of Soviet Union chose the leader, but Stalin just instilled fear in everybody. Okay. Now, when Stalin dies, the party chooses Khrushchev, and then Khrushchev dies, and they go through a series of leaders, all the way down to Gorbachev. And then when they disbanded that, they chose Yeltsin. Okay, and then frickin' Putin. All right, who we're dealing with now, who's kind of like an autocrat, but it's like a mafia state. Russia is today. It's actually a confederal system. Russia is. You can believe it. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's more like a mafia state. Yeah, I mean, it's they control through fear and intimidation and poisonings and murder and so forth. Okay, so let's define totalitarian. Okay, this is absolute rule through force. Totalitarian is absolute rule through force, usually over every aspect of life, controlling every aspect of life. Good example of a totalitarian system today. You said it earlier. North Korea. It's one of the worst places on the planet. Okay? I feel sorry for the people that live in North Korea. Okay? But they know nothing different. If you've talked to people that have escaped from that country, it's unimaginable how bad it is. Okay? In the 21st century. It's horrible. Okay? Now, can we call China totalitarian system? I mean, free speech? No. Freedom of religion? No. Can you start your own business? Yes. Can you move from one place to another? Generally, yes. So I don't know if you can call it totalitarian. Do they have people in slavery right now? Yes. So, all of these systems, all of these dictatorships, are authoritarian. Power is absolute and unchangeable. Authoritarian. Power is absolute and unchangeable. Okay? Got a pretty good feel on dictatorships. Most countries throughout human history have been dictatorships of some sort or another. Okay? During different times of history, we see these. Really, I can only think of two theocratic nations today. Vatican City, okay, and Iran. Okay. Now, ISIS, the Islamic State, like to have theocracy. Okay. Iran is run by religious bulls. Okay. They have a president, but he's a puppet of the theocrats, of the mullahs, okay, or priests, if you will. Okay. Good. And then fascist. Yeah, I won't ask you to define this on a test, but really it's devotion to a leader and the nation. They're one and the same. Okay. They tend to be totalitarian. I mean, really, we've only had a couple fascist countries. And Germany, Nazi Germany. Oh, yeah, under Franco. Yeah, good, yeah. And then, episodes of fascism. It was very popular in Argentina for a while. Okay. All right, so we go to a place where very few can participate, or one participates, and then we go to a where lots of people get to participate, which is a democracy. Okay. Now, there are a couple different forms of democracy, yes?
Yes.
We kind of alluded to that yesterday in our discussion. So let's start with direct. Or, that's why I don't write on the board. The word democracy goes back to the Greeks, okay? To define democracy would be to say supreme political authority, or sovereignty. Supreme political authority or sovereignty rests with the people. Okay, so a pure democracy or a direct democracy, a true democracy, all your words that can be used, everyone votes on everything. Everyone votes on everything. So in a true democracy, guys, we would all get to vote on whether we're wearing masks or not. And whoever got 51% wins. Majority rule. The general will, if you will. Now, could we do this? What do you mean there's no time? Yeah. Today, everybody got one of these? Let's say you don't. We can have the government buy one for you. Okay? Everybody gets one. Every morning you wake up and there's your notifications to vote on. We all get to vote. Do you like the Texas abortion law? Yes or no? Got some text. Connor. Your name? Oh. What? The window is fixed. Were you looking at your phone, Lily?
I texted Heidi to get online.
Okay. Yeah, I had a bad accident at the house this weekend. But the back window is fixed on my wife's.
The garage door shut on it.
So my son, we were gonna get his brakes fixed for him. He was going back to school. So he was taking my wife's car back to school. And he's in the car, ready to leave. And I'm like, you want the garage door opener? You know, I'm like, yeah, give me that. And I go in there, and my wife's got cups and stuff laying in the cup holders, you know, crap in them. Like, well, let me get this crap out of here. So I got the garage door opener and these cups and a water bottle. And I'm carrying them into the house from the garage. He's backing out. And I accidentally hit the freaking button. And the garage door comes down on the back of the car. So she's got a back windshield, but he doesn't have brakes. So.
Or have
Yeah. Okay, what are we talking about? Could we do this? Now, what's the problem with this? Okay. People act irrationally sometimes when they get upset. You can buy people's vote. That's interesting.
He's always trying to make money.
You have to have everyone educate on every single one.
Oh, that's the one. What the freaking heck do you guys know about what's going on in the world? You're 17, 18 years old. I think we should let 16-year-olds vote. That's a great idea. What the hell is that? Now, some of you guys are more educated than others. Okay? The expectation is that we pay for you as a society to go to school till you're 18 years old, that you have some sense of knowledge of the world around you outside of your little bubble. But in reality, we know that's not true. Most of you barely pay anything in taxes. So you're like, well, I don't care how much taxes are. I don't make it. It's not doesn't affect me. You don't know anything. Why are we letting you make decisions? It's a horrible idea. Guys, the founders of this country feared this more than just about anything. They did call it, Lily said the word, they called it a mobocracy. Guys, because when people get upset, okay, if the following days after the screw up in Afghanistan, okay, you could ask people, you're like, hey, should Joe Biden be impeached? You got like 60% of the people. Well, hell, the next day, dude, he's gone. Right there. Should we impeach him? Yes, boom, he's gone. We'll just act irrationally. Okay? Now, I don't care whether you like Biden or not. You know what I'm saying? But that just doesn't make sense. You got to think about these things. Gone. See ya. Miss Harris, first female president. Okay? Madam President. Coming anyways. So be ready. All right. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really bad idea. Now, it could work in a very small situation. You know what I mean? Like a village or a town, something like that. Okay, a family. Yeah, I know Lily generally gets her way, but yes. Yeah, you know, you're spoiled brat. Okay. All right, so let's move on. Okay, to the other representative.
Especially
Or
Republic.
Or thank you.
Hey,
What?
Okay. You ready for the definition? A small group of people are chosen by the people to represent their will. A small group of people are chosen by the people to represent their will. Okay? How much time we got? Can I just ask you to think about something for a second? Why would a politician today in 2021 use use this term, which we don't have, instead of this term, which we do have? Why would a politician or a news organization repeat the phrase, we live in a democracy, our democracy is at risk? Why do they use that word instead of a republic? Yeah, it feels like you actually have a say. And you really don't. But why else would, I mean, maybe. I haven't thought of that, but possibly. So democracy, vote for the Democratic Party type of thing? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It just really irks me when people say that because it's misleading. Okay. Now remember when we talked about Rousseau yesterday, and I said, hey, Rousseau talks about the general will. What 51% of the people want is what should happen. We might not be in our best interest, but it's in the best interest of everybody. Or the majority. You follow me? Yeah, it's not what we want, but it's what we truly do want or need. Okay? And I think it is an attempt to mess with the mind and to think that because guys, Marxism, I think it's an attempt to soften us up for Marxism. Okay, because Marxism is based on the general will, the people rising up against the powerful and tearing them down and bringing everybody up through government. Okay. Democracy, true democracy, is very similar. Okay. And you do get a mob mentality with it, which causes what? Revolution, riots. Okay. Bad behavior. Now, let me just ask you, how many have you been seeing this on the news since Joe Biden was elected? I haven't seen it hardly at all. Was this being used as a tool? A political tool? Just watch. See how much you hear about this in the next few months or the next year. That was a stretch. Because I like questions. Okay. Just kind of throwing some stuff out there. Okay. Now, we got to go deeper than this on this representative thing. 15, you thinking? 20. Thank you. Okay. So, guys, there's actually a couple sub things we're going to drop in here underneath representative democracy or republics, okay? And there's two types of systems within republics that we're going to learn about, okay? And as soon as I say the first one, you'll know the second. Okay, we're going to start with parliamentary. All right, okay? Parliamentary systems. Do you know the other? It's presidential. But don't write it down yet because you got some stuff to write here. Okay. Parliamentary system. Okay. Now, I meant to do this at the beginning before I started doing any notes at all. But let me just go ahead and do it real quick. Right? Got three branches of government, yes?
Yeah.
It's called separation of powers and checks and balances, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody knows that. Your honor students don't have to get down and dirty too much in that, okay? They make the laws. Okay, this is also known as Congress, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. They execute or carry out laws. This is the president. the people that work for the president. Supreme Court, federal court system, 9 members of the Supreme Court, right? And they interpret the law and the Constitution. Okay? Now, what we're looking at here in a parliamentary system, okay, is that the executive and the legislature are tied together. Okay? See how I have this written, so maybe it sounds better. Okay. So, who is the exact? Let's focus on Britain, the British Parliament. Okay. The leader of the executive branch in British Parliament is the Prime Minister. Does anybody know his name? Johnson. Boris Johnson. Okay. So the Prime Minister, okay, is part of, or is a member of Parliament. The legislature and the executive are tied together. So in order to become PM, you've got to be an MP. What's an MP? Not military police, a member of Parliament. Okay, so first you got to get elected to Congress or the Parliament, yes? And then the Parliament elects you to be the Prime Minister. Does this make sense? So what's cool about this system, guys, is that the Prime Minister has to answer to who? Parliament. Like in your face, they have to answer to Parliament. So if you look up, and maybe tomorrow I'll start with this if you remind me, I'll show you some clips of the British Parliament. And the Prime Minister is standing there, his party behind him, the opposition party in front of him, and he has to answer to them face to face, and it's on TV. Does Joe Biden have to answer to anybody? Does he have to give press conferences? Does he have to answer tough questions? No, his staff, if you've been paying attention, is telling him which reporters to call on. Do you think he knows the questions ahead of time? Joe Biden is at his best when he's off script. Okay? We're going to zero emissions by 2020. Which is what he said yesterday. There was a congresswoman there named Kirsten Gillibrand. He called her Kristen. Okay? And we don't call them tornadoes anymore. I don't know if you knew that. But that's what he said. He was in Pennsylvania, or he was in New Jersey yesterday. They had all the hurricane remnants and flooding. And I don't know what he was talking about. He said these twister things, they don't call them tornadoes anymore. I don't know what's going on. Okay? I don't know. All right, what else with this? Guys, in these parliamentary systems, at any time, the parliament can call for new elections. They do have terms for the prime minister, but if there's a vote of no confidence, they can call for new elections at any time. So like there's been periods in France under their parliamentary system where they've been through like 5, 6 leaders in the span of 2 years. Okay, it's much more volatile than our system. Okay, I like it. Okay, the prime minister themselves can call for new elections at any time. So like, oh, you don't like the way I'm handling things? Okay, let's put it up to a vote. That takes some guts. Okay, so They're usually 2-year terms for parliament. Depends on the country, but 2 is pretty common. Now, everybody's parliamentary system is a little bit different, so they can be very confusing. So your chief executive is the prime minister, right? They run the day-to-day affairs of the country. But these parliamentary systems also have a head of state. Oh gosh, what am I talking about? So you've got 2 things here with the parliamentary system. You've got the chief exec, which is your prime minister, or some countries they call them the premier. In some countries they call them the chancellor. What country am I talking about? Germany, Chancellor Merkel, okay? In some countries, they call the chief executive in a parliamentary system president. That's not confusing. Okay, so that's your chief executive. Then over here, you have the head of state. Who's the head of state of Great Britain? The Queen. This is ceremonial. Stop it. The head of state is ceremonial. In our system that I will be talking about tomorrow, presidential system, the president is both chief executive and head of state. You see the difference? So the 2 biggest differences, the executive and legislature are connected in a parliamentary system. The head of state and chief executive are separate. And the presidential system, as I'll talk about, the executive and legislature are separate and independent, but the president is both head of state and chief executive. You can figure that out on a test, can you?
Sure.
I'll go back over it one more time tomorrow when we start, and then we'll look at different forms of government under different criteria.
Answer these questions. I do a vocal today, so I didn't turn it on.
Can you still turn in on Kansas?